We didn't prosecute Hillary Clinton. We did not go after her. We did not lock her up. We tried to take the high road. They didn't accept the olive branch. They tried to ruin Trump personally, Trump professionally, Trump's presidency, and many around him. You know, they're the ones who locked up Steve Bannon for contempt of Congress, Peter Navarro for contempt of Congress. We didn't try to lock up Merrick Garland when he committed it. It's time. I'm done taking the high road. They have to suffer. They have to have real skin in the game before they will accept reality.
Megyn Kelly is one of many right-wing commentators who are admitting that President Donald Trump is setting out on a revenge tour against his enemies. And those commentators aren't just saying the quiet part out loud, they're even cheering on Trump's campaign of retribution. So we'll show you more of them in a minute. But first, Cenk, what do you think about this very disturbing trend? And also, did you know that this whole time the right has been taking the high road? I didn't know that.
Yeah. We're gonna show you the high road that the right wing has been taking in video form in just a little bit. So make sure you wanna stick around to see that. So I'm always greatly amused by that. We'll talk about that in a second too. But also, there is a little bit of hypocrisy where the establishment holds certain people to account and not others. There is a kernel of truth in that. I wanna come back and explain that as well. But what makes no sense to me is, oh, the other side did something bad, so now we're also going to do something bad. What? So it's like saying, you know what? The Republicans cut taxes for the rich. So now that Bernie Sanders is in, we're gonna cut taxes for the rich too. Wait, why would we do that? We said we were against that the whole time. The Republicans said they were against lawfare the whole time, and now they get into office and they're like, we love lawfare. We wanna do it even more than the other side. Oh, so you were never against it. You were just bothered that it was done to you, but you couldn't wait to do it to others. So thank you for telling on yourself and letting us know that you have no principles at all. And you're gonna see a lot more of that right now.
All right, so as Cenk said, before we get any further, let's all remind ourselves of what Trump had to say about Megyn Kelly back in 2015.
She gets out and she starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions. And, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
That's awkward. So that aside, let's turn to all of the other right-wing commentators who are calling for Trump to punish his enemies. Take a look.
Some people say it's retribution. I say, who cares?
And if you're a bully and you hit somebody and they don't hit you back, you're gonna keep bullying the bejesus out of them.
To be honest with you, it clearly is payback time. Adam Schiff, Big Tish, and now John Bolton, you'd have to be blind to not see this. But you'd have to be a fool to not have expected it. People need to be punished for what they have done because they started it. They started this. He didn't start it, they started it.
Payback, retribution, call it whatever you want. An eye for an eye. Sometimes two wrongs can make a right.
Retribution, you bet it is. And it should be. Because when you are in a war for power, and we very much are in a war for power, you had better hit back and let the enemy know that it can come right back to him.
So this is kind of an interesting situation that we have all found ourselves in right now. So even when the Democrats were in power, when we had the White House, there was talk of fear of retribution, that, if we go after all these people who have legitimately done things that were illegal and were worthy of, conviction and jail time, that, once the right went back into the White House, that they would kind of do exactly what they're doing now. And they would do it just out of revenge and not out of any kind of seeking actual justice. So especially when people like Megyn Kelly are talking about, oh, we've been taking the high road this whole time. They act like the people who were locked up during the Biden years or whenever, that they didn't legitimately do things that were illegal and worthy, again, of conviction. And that's simply not the case. But what the interesting situation that we're finding ourselves in, that I mentioned earlier, is that there are so many people on both sides of the aisle who are doing things that are legally dubious and questionable. And it's like, why do we find ourselves in the position of deciding what is worth prosecuting, what is worth pursuing, and what just isn't for political reasons? So Elliot, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I just can't get over how dorky these guys sound when they try to do this like tough rhetoric. It does crack me up. I mean, they talk like they're these warriors, and there's something about it I can't buy at all. I also think that they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. I don't find this particularly surprising because this administration seems to be hitting kind of a critical mass where everyone is recognizing that, they've jumped the shark essentially. And in that situation, you have two options. You can either run away and you can admit that you were wrong and that you sided with the wrong side, or you can dig your heels in further and embrace all of the things that you see clearly before you. So I think them embracing this bullying aspect is what they have to do. Their paychecks are coming essentially from this administration. It also reminds me of this time I went to therapy, and I remember talking to my therapist and just like venting, and I was all upset about something. And then he just goes, "How old do you feel right now?" And I was like, I don't know, 30 something. And he was like, well, you sound maybe like, I would say 11 years old. And so I feel like these folks should be like, hey, how old do you feel when you're talking like this? They did it to me. You sound like a kid. And I think that is for them a feature and not a bug. So that's my rant about it.
I like your therapist. Kind of a badass.
He's a good guy.
All right, so let's break this down. Trump's going after John Bolton. We all hate John Bolton. Any reasonable, decent person would. He's one of the neocons that can't stop starting wars and et cetera. So, okay, but if I was in charge, would I put John Bolton in my government? Oh, hell no. No way, right? And Trump also took away his security clearance when he came back in. I like that he did that. I don't think he should have a security clearance. I don't trust him. I don't know who he's sharing that information with. So no problem on that front. And I don't care if you call it retribution or anything else, okay? But then they go to arrest him. And look, you can tell from the conservative reaction, they're all confessing. We have no evidence. This is all made up. But now, yeah, so what? Payback, retribution, revenge, right? But brother, I hate him too, but this isn't what you do. This is crazy. And so, like they said, oh, he classified intelligence. But he asked the government before writing the book, is this okay? Is this classified or not? The government came back to him and said, it's not classified. It's okay, you can print it. He prints it, and then Trump gets into office, changed our mind. That's not a thing. There's no changed our mind. You can't ex post facto go, even though I gave you permission, I'm now retracting it and arresting you. And you can tell because none of them are defending it. None of the right wingers are defending it. They're just saying, yeah, payback, so what? But guys, so let me talk about both the hypocrisy and payback. And I'm not your regular Democrat or leftist, right? So number one, if you say to me, payback's okay, I say, yeah, depends, right? So what does it depend on? Okay, the Republicans gerrymander Texas, Democrats should gerrymander California. Payback's a bitch. That's political, right? Mitch McConnell broke the record on filibusters. Well, then blocking any bill the Democrats could do when they were in majority. So then Democrats should also do filibuster. I hate filibusters, but if one side's going to do a form of a political tactic, then the other side gets to do it. By the way, also vice versa. If the Democrats broke the record on filibusters, then the Republicans get to do filibusters. But guys, that is in the realm of politics. When you get into the realm of law, you can't just make stuff up and arrest people for things they didn't do. That's not legitimate retribution. That is going outside the law, and that is getting to an authoritarian form of government. That is not what America is about. So is there hypocrisy in how the law is applied? All the time, right? So that there's a kernel of truth in that for sure. So for example, on the contempt of Congress. So Steve Bannon and Navarro were brazenly in contempt. I think they should have gone to jail. On the other hand, do I see establishment figures that are in contempt of Congress from time to time and they don't go to jail? Yeah. Why? And both Democrats and Republicans, and nobody ever explains. If you leak something and it's against the powerful, you're going to be in a world of trouble. You're either going to get arrested and tortured like Chelsea Manning was, or you're going to have to escape to Russia and live there the rest of your life. Because why? You leaked information that was helpful to the American people, but not to the people in charge. Now, on the other hand, open up the New York Times or Washington Post on any given day, and you'll see leak after leak after leak, and that is in favor of the powerful. And no one is ever, forget prosecuted, nobody even looks into it. Who did that goddamn leak? You told me leaks were like so bad you have to hide in Russia the rest of your life. Here's a leak and you're not doing anything about it. So look, if I'm not an establishment figure. I can't stand those guys. So if you give me a legitimate hypocrisy, okay, I'm with you, right? But we cannot play around with the law, because then we get into chaos and lawlessness. And then when you're in lawlessness, who gets to decide? Raw power gets to decide. And that isn't America. That isn't our system of government. I hate it. I don't want any part of it. I got more, but yeah, it's back to you.
Yeah, if this is the party of law and order, and that's the thing that they say that they care about, then fine. Like, I don't know anybody on the left who would say, if there is credible evidence against somebody that they have done something illegal, that I would be opposed to that person being rightfully punished for the thing that they did, especially when the thing that they did is something that could impact millions of Americans across the country. So like, if they have the evidence, then great, show us the evidence and then prosecute it, but they really just don't have a whole lot to go on with a lot of these things that they're wanting to happen, because again, like I said, like the left has no problem with law and order, with the justice system whenever it is working the way it's supposed to work. But whenever you engage in the so-called lawfare, it becomes a wild, wild west, right? And whoever is in power, whichever district judge is over here and whichever judge is over here, it all is just like, it's all about feelings, And so much of our justice system is supposed to kind of eliminate feelings. I know it's impossible to do that. You try to focus on the evidence, you try to focus on the logic of things, and it is not a perfect system. It is highly fallible, but we do our best, or we're supposed to do our best to kind of get around some of those things. But what we're seeing here is just complete politicization of the justice system to the point where it could ruin lives, it could ruin careers, and for what? I don't know. So
yeah. So look, guys. It can get to an absurdity. So for example, like I always think shoe on the other foot, right? So if Bernie had won the presidency and I'm advising him and he said, hey, let's arrest Rick Scott. I'd be like, ooh, I like that kind of talk. Why do I like that kind of talk? Because his company did the largest Medicare fraud in American history and he got away with it. And that, I'm never gonna let that go. Okay, so then I would say, okay, look into it. Is there any charges on Rick Scott? Because his company actually did plead guilty, so that's super legitimate. And then they'd come back and tell me, no, the statute of limitations ran out. So there's nothing you could do about it, you'd have to go outside the law. And if Bernie at that point said, yeah, let's go outside the law and let's just arrest him anyway, I would immediately quit and I would tell the world this guy's lawless and violating the core principles of America. Even though I loathe Rick Scott and I know he did it because his company confessed. No, we have to stick within the law. And the argument is so absurd. Like, for example, Senator Menendez was a Democrat from New Jersey. He took bribes from Egypt and he got convicted for it. It was a hilarious story, you guys probably remember. He had gold bars, money stuffed into his suits, clownorama, right? So under the Megyn Kelly and Greg Gutfeld line of thinking, when the Republicans get back in charge, retribution, baby, now we're gonna take gold bars from Egypt. Wait, what? No, you're not supposed to do the wrong things that other administrations did. So, but to be fair, they are the kings of the high road. And so you have to respect them for that. So let's show you some of the high road that Trump has taken.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account.
Only Rosie O'Donnell. She gets out and she starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions. And, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
We will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
I supported him, he lost, he let us down. But he lost. So I never liked him as much after that, because I don't like losers. But Frank, let me get to it. He hit me. He's not a war hero. He's a war hero. He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
High road. Elliot, any last thoughts?
I think we always hear that story about how one of the reasons Trump decided to run for office was because Obama made fun of him at the White House press, whatever it was. And I just wish in hindsight that who had made fun of him had been like a comedian, because Trump kills as a roast comedian. I mean, he knows what he's doing in that capacity. Unfortunately, he's the president. So that's my final thought.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of him being like wanting to take vengeance and retribution on other roasters.
Yeah. I think it was Seth Meyers
Lock him up.
played a significant role in giving us the Trump candidate for president in 2016. So thanks, Seth.
There you go.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe we lock up Seth Meyers and be done with it. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.